My lords, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to episode number 4 of the hard mode playthrough on Transport Fever 2. We're starting this episode floating high above the town of Portishead, looking towards the freight station that I've built upon off camera and expanded and tweaked and all that other good stuff. And that's where, at least for the start of the episode, we're going to be focusing our attention. That is Portishead and its freight station here. So if we bring up the user interface now, we can see we have 9 million in the bank. We have a cash flow of around about 2 million, and everything so far is going pretty well. Now, a glaring change, which you may see, is this, it all looks a little bit different in terms of the graphics. That's because I've added a new mod to the series. This is called Morning or Morning Time. And it basically sets the sun height to a little bit lower, so you get all these lovely shadows being cast across your map, and I think it just makes the game look that a little bit more beautiful. The only issue with the mod is if you're facing towards the sun, which is obviously off in this direction, and you're down low, it can be a little bit washed out and a bit bright, so for any cab rides we have to be mindful of that. There's also been a few other mods added on as well. They're primarily assets for detailing scenery work, but I will update the Steam Workshop mod list to include and reflect any changes that have been made. Obviously, if you are wanting to follow along with the series and the map, then the asset mods aren't really required. They are just to add a little bit of depth and flavour to the map. They don't change the gameplay or anything like that, so you don't need them, but I'll include them in the workshop list anyway in case you would like to have them included. Of course, you can always add any asset mods you like, including locomotives and vehicles. The assets I've added in are mainly for scenery and beautification. As we can see, the list here is a lot like I normally have it, so we have a lot more options to deal with if we do want to beautify and expand some of our industrial areas, stations and so forth. Anyway, let's press on with the episode at large. So up until now, we have a few cargo lines running, and if we just open the line manager, we can see we've got the bricks delivery from the factory here into West Ham, likewise into Portishead. And if you remember, I made a bit of a miscalculation when it came to the line rates for Portishead, and we were never able to quite hit the heights that we were hoping for there, so my calculations didn't quite work out, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. We also have this stone freight line, which is hauling stone from the quarry at Lewis over to the brickworks, and then obviously the bricks then being shipped on by road vehicle out towards the two towns, West Ham and Portishead. Now, obviously at the end of the last episode, to round it off, we did construct this line from the brickworks over to Portishead. As I said, I have tweaked it a little. One of the major changes is there's now a bridge for the tram lines, so it can scale over the rail line without causing any interruption between to the trams when the trains are passing on by. And we've also got this little bridge here to get our trucks from the pickup point over on into Portishead for their final delivery. I've also expanded the station, so we've got these two platforms here, platforms 1 and 2. These will be used for the cargo drop-offs. At the minute it's only going to be bricks, but eventually we'll also have food coming here as well. And these two outer platforms, 3 and 4, they're not going to be used for handling any sort of freight. Instead, they're just going to be passed through platforms, so any trains that have to be passing through but not stopping here can bypass the station entirely, so they won't hold anything else up or won't get held up by any trains that happen to be making a delivery. Anyway, I think the first thing we should do today is think about setting up a line between the brickworks to our new freight yard down here. However, before we set the train up and running and getting that line done, I think the best thing to do is to have our road vehicles ready in preparation. That way, as soon as the train starts unloading, there's something ready for it to be shipped on. In terms of, obviously, we've got vehicles waiting for the first load of bricks. Otherwise, if there's no onward delivery point, our train's just going to sit here and we're going to have no production for Portishead. So let's get the road vehicle line sorted first of all. So we want a new line, and we're going from Portishead Freight and Interchange, and this is going to be coloured red. and we're going to our drop-off point, which is here. Now, as you can see, if we were to come this way, we'd be on the wrong side of the road and we'd have to turn around. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a new drop-off point down, pretty much opposite on the opposite side of the road from the existing one. So in terms of its catchment, it isn't going to be too drastic from the existing drop-off point. So if we put that there, and then now we can return to line number 1. Here we want to be fully loaded, and I'm going to use my usual setup, which is a maximum of 30-second wait time, and I'm going to specify our loading orders to only take the bricks. That way the trucks aren't in any danger of accidentally picking up any of the bread that's going to be dropped off eventually. And then from there we are going to the industry drop off, but this time we want platform number 2. There we go. In fact, I do believe our existing line is also automatically swapped over to platform number 2, which is the one we just put down. So what we can do is actually delete the first drop-off point that we had. There we go, everybody is happy. As we can see, our new delivery line, if we disregard this one, because this will soon disappear, there is no interaction with our buses, and there's no interaction crossing over its own line, so the trucks won't be held up in any sort of traffic caused by themselves, if that makes sense. It's a nice clean loop. Over here we also have a pretty clean loop, although we do loopy loop on the station, which we don't want to do, so we'll put a waypoint down. As you can see, we've got extra waypoints available just to add a bit of immersion to the map, if you know what I mean. And for this waypoint, let's go ahead and we'll use something like, oh, I don't know, let's just, what do we think's suitable? Urban Clearway. There we go, and that can be the waypoint. So after the drop-off point, you want to hit this waypoint, and then you won't be looping around on the station. So that's ready for you. Do we have a vehicle depot out here? No, I still believe we're only using the one up here. Indeed we are. We may as well use that because we've got to wait for the train when we do set it up to pick up and drop off anyway. So let's go to buy vehicle. We want cargo. We have the Benz truck with side stakes. They carry 8, and they also carry the bricks, as we can see. To start off with, we're just going to go for, I'm going to say 5 of these. We can play about with line rates and balancing later on, but for a starting point, that's pretty good. And this is line 1. Needs to be renamed, but first of all, we need to get rid of the existing line. In fact, no, we'll leave that going for now, because until we set the train up, at least we're still getting some bricks into here. So now we can do the train line. Now, I did toy with just having an extended train here and putting on some flat car with side stakes on the rear of the consist. So when they drop off the stone, they will wait, pick up some bricks, and then they will head on into Portishead to drop off the bricks before making their way all the way back to the quarry. The problem with that is if this line is currently pretty nicely balanced. What do we have here? The BR75.4 BAD VIC. I guess that's actually not VI, it's a 6, isn't it? Roman numerals. There you go. Another train. Looks like a little shunting train. We can take a look at that in a moment. Yes, because we've got this line quite nicely balanced at the moment, I don't want to mess about with that because the rates are all going to change and the frequencies. If this train is now heading all the way to here before heading back, the overall line rate is going to get messed up. Given that we've got decent cash flow, I think we could afford to have a dedicated train just hauling the bricks to Portishead and running back. And for the time being, I think one train is going to be enough. So let's set up the line. And we want to go from the West Ham Brickworks. We're going to be coloured red as we're handling the bricks. And we're going into Portishead. So that's chosen platform 1 over there. At the Brickworks, we have chosen platform number 2. So we don't have any overlap with our stone delivery lines, which is great. We'll say no more than 60 seconds as it's a train, so it takes that little bit long to load up. Full load all. And again, perhaps a bit superfluously, we will set up the loading orders here. That way there's no room for any errors. And this will be our bricks freight. And this is from West Ham to Portishead. There we go. So now we can purchase the train for that, and that gives us an ideal opportunity to look at the new train that we just unlocked, which was the BR75.4 BAD6C. So its tractive effort is lower, its power is also lower, However, it's more in line with the max speed of the cargo wagons that we have. It's also half the price in terms of its yearly upkeep than the A35, so that's something worth bearing in mind. Its emissions are similar, and it's also quite a lot lighter as well. We could try this train. Obviously, we are sacrificing power and tractive effort, so we're not going to get up to speed as quickly as we would with an A35. But let's see what we can do with this. So now we want the cargo wagons, the flat car with the side stakes, and I think we'll start off, if we can get a capacity, what's our total? Around about 50 we want to be hitting. Now I think we could have this train pick up, drop off, return, pick up, drop off and return twice within 12 minutes, so twice per year. So if we have its overall capacity as roughly around about 50, I think that might work out for us. How is that on its speed? Well, it does hit top speed on both flat and medium grades. The track we laid down is pretty much flat, so we only really need to be concerned with the top number there. And it gets up to speed in just over a kilometre. Now I think it's got the run there to hit that top speed. In fact, we can pretty much eyeball it because we had our signals set every 400 metres. So let's say that's about 200 between that signal and there. So there's 600 and there's 1000 there. So yes, we will be able to hit our top speed, and we've still got quite a lot of track to go. So I think we're going to be okay with this train. It's quite a small train to start with, but we can fine tune it as time progresses. We've coloured it red, as that's the line it's running on, Bricks Freight West Ham to Portishead, and away it goes. Now we want to rename this. In fact, no, before we rename that line, we want to now get rid of the existing delivery line, which is this one here. So what we'll do first of all, we could have swapped some of these trucks over, but these are all the Cannstadts, and we've upgraded, or we've got the newer trucks on this line over here. So we may as well just go ahead and sell these ones outright and get a bit of money back. So 30 vehicles. Yes, we're going to be selling some that are fully loaded, which will waste the cargo, but we'll soon recover from that. That's generated us, yeah, what, about $40,000, pounds, whatever. Pounds, we're in the UK. Yes, so that's done. So now we can actually delete the line itself, which is this one. Delete that. There we go. And now we can rename this as Bricks Delivery for Portishead. There we go. So our train is, our new train, I should specify, is making its way onto the line. I think we'll have a quick look at this train now while we get started, and we'll wait for it to make its way down. It looks like, I guess that's a tank engine. Looks like it's got the water tanks on the side there, unless that's something else, I don't know. I'm not familiar with the train at all. It looks like quite a decent little workhorse, so, and hopefully it's going to do a good job for us. We're going to have to obviously keep an eye on the line rates once it beds in, which is going to take at least 2 full deliveries for that to take effect. The bricks are being dropped over already. I believe we had a capacity on this train of, was it 56? Let's have a look. Yes, it was. At the moment we have 47 waiting on the platform, so there will be a little bit of waiting around for this train before it departs, and chances are it will depart partially loaded. And in fact, what I'm tempted to do, in fact what I will do, is manage this line, and we'll have an unlimited wait time. It's not interfering with our stone line, so it's not going to cause a feedback loop on itself. And this guarantees that when it does hit Portishead, it is going to have a full load, and it's going to also help better reflect our rates and frequencies. And then we can fine tune in terms of getting as much delivery over here, as much supply as we possibly can. As we can see, this road does cross over the line, but this is used relatively infrequently. As we can see, our new vehicles are using it now, but that's a temporary measure just while they head out from their depot to their starting position down here. Another thing we could do to save a little bit of money on maintenance is delete this road, and this platform here. It's no longer needed, so we'll do that. We won't get a refund for any of that, but we will save the money on the maintenance, which is always nice. Our train is nearly fully loaded, so we should be underway pretty soon. 54 or 56. We have plenty of stone available in storage at the brickworks, as we can see. It's just a production lag that's making the train wait here. But it will be interesting to see how many bricks we have waiting when it gets back from making a delivery into Portishead, and that's when we can decide whether we need fewer or even more wagons on the back of this train. Obviously, if we were to take some off, we'd increase our speed and efficiency on that front, but we wouldn't be transporting as much per journey, so we'll have to make a decision on that. In fact, what we'll do, we'll just speed it up just a little bit so it can make a full delivery. That's also going to help us determine how much money it's going to be making. If I had to guess, I would say around about 350,000 per journey with a full load, but we'll see when it gets there. In fact, it might be a little bit more than that. I'll go to 450. I'm going to guess 450,000, and then we shall see. So place your bets now. How much do you think this is going to make? We'll just trail it in just for something to do. And once it makes its delivery, we'll drop the speed back to 1x acceleration and then make a determination on where we want to expand to next. So here she comes now. Wow, that is a lot better than I expected it to be. So that's really good to see. What we need to do now is make sure that these trucks are just about clearing this platform as the train returns. If they're waiting around, i.e. if the platform runs dry in the time it takes the train to make a return journey, then we can get rid of some of these road vehicles to save us a bit of money. There's no point having them sat there waiting for an eternity when there's no real need to. So we'll keep an eye on that next. So in fact, we'll keep it at 4x speed just to hurry things along, and we can see how it's going to look. How many... Oh, has it already set off? No, it's not set off yet. It's still on its way in. So we're up to around about 50 as our train pulls in alongside. 53, so we're not actually waiting that long. And we are actually saving money on maintenance while we are waiting on the platform. So it's probably worthwhile keeping the train length as it is. And, well, at least we don't want to shorten it, that's for sure. We could perhaps elongate it, depending on how the rates look down in Portishead. At the minute, we're at 41, that's climbing. So our trucks have expanded the supply on the station here, so we'll start off by selling one of them. How many did you have? Were you fully loaded? No, you picked up the last 5. That must have been the last... Oop, get rid of that. The last 5 that were on the platform before running dry. So we'll see how we do with just 4 vehicles making a delivery. They'll have to space themselves out a little, but that's fine. So with 4, we'll see what happens just as this train gets back on its next full journey. Again, we've just got enough space on that platform there without wasting any of the bricks that this train has just delivered, so that's good. That's efficient right there. And we'll keep an eye on this now and just see how it looks when the train returns. In the meantime, we'll hop back up to the platform, and I'm going to guess we're going to have around 53 available just as the train comes to a stop, so we'll see. As we can see, it is getting up to its maximum speed of 50 miles per hour. Well, maximum speed as dictated by the wagons we are pulling, which have a top speed of 50. So it's good to see that it is hitting its top speed. Interestingly, we've got a lot less waiting for us this time around. Again, that's not a major problem, because while we're waiting here, we are saving money on maintenance. You don't pay as much. I think it's 60% less is what you pay. Or you only pay 60% of the total, which would be 40% less. I can't remember which way around it is. Either way, you do pay less maintenance when you're on the platform, so it's not the end of the world. But that slowdown on production could have been caused by a drop in the rate overall at Portishead. It is all linked. We've got a decent enough supply there. As I said, I want to aim for about 80%, so we're not too far off. Just for an initial eyeball guesstimate as to how many vehicles we're going to need, I think we've done quite well there. As we can see, this truck here has now just picked up the last of the bricks. So I think we could probably sell one more and get away with just 3 of them. There's no point having them run empty unnecessarily. Now that might in turn cause a further slowdown in production over here, but we'll see what happens on that front. Ideally what we want to be doing is the last truck on the pickup wants to be clearing the platform just as the train arrives. As you can see at the minute we've overcooked it slightly, but we'll see what happens on this return journey with just 3 vehicles making the final delivery. So it looks like yes, I'm going to say 3 trucks isn't enough, but I don't know how long that train was this time waiting up here. I think it's going to take, if we just leave it for at least one more journey, let it balance and bed in properly, and then we'll see if again we've got some excess on this platform when it gets back this time. Then we may want to get rid of or add in an extra truck and just have it sit around on the platform waiting for the train to arrive. I don't know why I paused there. I'll probably cut that out so you probably don't know what I'm talking about, but never mind. So we're back up to what we were last time, or the first time we checked, which is around about 50 units waiting for the train as he returns. And it didn't seem that the train took a long time to get back. Obviously, we didn't check it last time. We stuck down here pissing about with sheep and zebras. But yes, so we didn't really pay much attention to the train and what it was doing up there. But it didn't seem to take that long of a time for the train to return. What's good enough over here? The intercity tram is proving very popular, as you can see. 60 people waiting there. I think we've only got 4 trams running at the moment. The train's on its way back, so we must be mindful of that. We do have 13 waiting here. Right, we'll come back to that in a moment because our train is about halfway. In fact, no, 3/4 of the way back. No, halfway. Yeah, about halfway there. We don't want to miss the state of affairs at the platform when it does return. That's roughly hovered around the same. So at the minute we were hitting 62 out of 98, so it could be better. It does need to be better. So last time we had 2 bricks waiting. As we can see here, we've got a lot more waiting. So we certainly, definitely need at least 1 more vehicle on this line. So we'll put that on. And we'll see how we get on with that. Now we'll hop back over to the to West Town, which is where we just were before the train arrived. Now, one thing that was pointed out in the, well, I think it was the previous episode's comments, is that our trams are getting stuck behind some of our delivery vehicles. Now at the moment we're still running the DMG Cannstatt's on this West Ham delivery line, as we can see, and these are limited in their top speed, 16 miles per hour. Our trams can do 55 miles per hour. However, as we saw, we have unlocked the Benz trucks, and I think they top speed at 25 miles per hour as well. Yes, they do. They both do. Both do a top speed of 25. So rather than rerouting our trucks, we could just upgrade them all to the Benz trucks. That will see them match the speed of the tram, so our tram won't get held up anymore on this stretch of road here. So I think we'll do that. Now that's going to take some slight calculation, because we're not only changing the speed of our trucks, obviously it's a faster truck now, we're also changing the overall capacity. We're going from 5 to 8. So if we would just do a bulk replacement of all the DMG Cannstatts that we currently have, we would massively oversaturate this line, because each truck would be taking 8 instead of 5, and we'd have all sorts of pile-up issues over here with the trucks waiting for a full load. So what we can do is we can, like we did last time, somewhat poorly, we can use a bit of mathematics on this and get a rough ballpark figure. Now this little trick was taught to me by Grand T. I don't know if you're familiar with the channel. If you are, do check it out. It's brilliant. And yes, this is the trick he used, and it seemed to be pretty accurate, at least for a rough, rule of thumb ballpark figure. And what we want to do is we want to use our existing line. So that is this one. Yes, the bricks delivery, and we want to see how many vehicles we have on this line. So if we open the bricks delivery line, in fact, we'll do it this way. So in total, we have 34 vehicles. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the number of vehicles by the cargo capacity. So that's 34 multiplied by 5. And then we want to multiply that number by the top speed of the vehicles, which in the case of the DMG Cannstatt, if we remember, is 16 miles per hour. That gives us an overall figure of 2,720. What we want to do is then run that little sum backwards and see how many new vehicles we need when we take into account the new vehicle speed and the new vehicle capacity. So essentially what we're going to do is divide 2720 by the new top speed, which was 25 miles per hour, and then the new cargo capacity, which is 8. So 2720 divide 25, that will give you a number, and that number then you divide by the cargo capacity of 8, and that gives you an overall number of how many new vehicles you need to make a direct replacement, roughly, and that comes out at 14. So in essence, it's going to obviously this isn't going to work straight away just because you have to bulk buy these vehicles and it takes a while for them to bed in and separate along the line. But if we were to, let's quickly pause it, if we manage these vehicles, all 34 are selected, and then just sell them all, again, we will be selling some of the materials and not making any money on it, which is a shame, but we can soon recover from that. So we're going to sell the whole lot. And then if we go and purchase, what was it, 14 of these Benz trucks with side stakes. That's 14, not 141. Colour them in, and now put these onto the brick delivery line. Then over time, we should see these new vehicles replicate a similar frequency and rate to the line of vehicles that we've just replaced. That's the theory, and it isn't 100% accurate, but it does get you in the rough ballpark area. Now what we also want to do at this point is manage this line so that these vehicles are waiting for an indefinite amount of time for a full load, like so. So they're queuing up for a while, but eventually they will space out and things will balance back out and catch back up. Obviously this was produced onto here pretty much based on the amount of vehicles and the frequency and the rates that we were operating with the DMG Cannstatts. That's now changed, so it might take a bit of a while. There's a bit of inertia involved for it to catch up and fully replicate and represent the new vehicles that we're now operating with. So we'll leave that for a while to bed in and see how we get on. Now that we've sold we didn't sell. Now that we've purchased an additional delivery vehicle for the Portishead delivery line, I would like to see now how many bricks we're having on platform when the train gets here. I'm not sure how many deliveries it's made since the 4 vehicles have been operating rather than the 3, but they do look pretty well spaced out, so I think it's done at least a couple of deliveries. Now I know the train is on its way, in fact it's very close, and we're still left with 31 units of bricks on the platform. So when this unloads, it's going to overspill and we're going to lose some of the cargo, which is something we absolutely do not want, especially on hard mode. As you can see here, very soon we're going to have the warning. There it is. We can only carry a maximum of 78. Now we could chuck another vehicle at this. And in fact, that's probably not the worst idea in the world, because it will bump up this supply number ever so slightly, and then we could start hitting that magical 80%. So let's do that. Let's clone one more, and we're back to the original 5. So I think I was a bit overeager in the selling of the vehicles initially, and I hadn't get the timeline to properly bed in. As we can see, because of the change now, this production, or the number of bricks going to each line, has been rebalanced. As you can see, before our train was getting back when it had about 45 or 50. As we can see now, there's already 64, and the train hasn't even come to a stop yet. That should change once this line starts to spread and balance out a little better. As we can see, we are, in fact, they're not bunched up. That's one of the new vehicles you just purchased. So yes, they are spreading themselves out a little, but we need to keep an eye on this and make sure this doesn't drop off too precipitously and then start on doing the hard work that we've already put into West Ham. Now, while that's all balancing, let's go back over here. So we're still around 60 passengers waiting, so we are not clearing this backlog of passengers at all. So I think we're going to need at least one more tram on this line, but I'm going to go ahead and say we'll go for an extra 2. We can always sell one later on if we've overburdened. That's only $500,000 to purchase those. There we go, we want them green. And ideally one will head to West Ham and one will head to Portishead, but we'll check that now. Indeed. This should no longer be any issues with slowdown because of our delivery trucks, because all these vehicles down here are now doing 25 miles per hour, which is obviously the maximum of this road anyway. So nothing's getting caught up behind anything else. I don't think we go into any... no, we do. Is this one of the slow roads? I think it is. Yes, it is. So it's going to cost a lot of money. I think we want to upgrade this road to a higher capacity, higher speed road, because that's slowing us down unnecessarily. As you can see here, 12 miles per hour is the limit on this small street. 25 is on the medium. So let's upgrade to a 25 miles per hour road. Just that small stretch itself is going to cost $612,000 and remove one building. That's unfortunate. There we go. So now there should be no slowdown on the, because of the roads at least anyway. All these are 25 miles per hour as well. Let's just check that there's been no slowdowns over here in Portishead. No, that's all 25. This road is all 25, as is this, as is this. So through Portishead, our trams are able to hit their maximum speed. I know that's perhaps going to the nth degree to get every bit of mile per hour possible out of our vehicles, but it's well worth doing, especially in hard mode. You don't want any unnecessary slowdown where you can avoid it, and upgrading the roads is a relatively cheap fix option, so it's worthwhile doing that if you ask me. How are we doing on this line balancing? The train is on its way. It's not long since left. We're about a quarter of the way there. In terms of bricks remaining, we have 31. Again, I think we are going to overspill. What do we have here? The Junkers F-13. While we may use aircraft later on in the game, I've got no urge to put them in this early on, so we can disregard that little unlock. How many do we have? 15, okay. Now this might all change once this line balances, although it looks pretty spaced out now. We have some waiting, some on their way down, some on their way back. How are we doing on the delivery into Portishead? 86. We're at 80%, but I don't like wasting resources, especially on hard mode. Medium, yeah, it doesn't matter as much. Obviously, you're not being as profitable as you can be, but it's not going to cripple you. On hard mode, you want to eke out every last penny that you can. How are we doing over here? So this is back up to 80%, but this was hovering around about 100, I think, before we made the changeover. So it could be that we need at least one more vehicle running this line. And it just seems to me that this brickworks has just changed its production priority over to Portishead rather than West Ham, whereas initially West Ham was getting the bulk of the materials and Portishead was getting any remainder, if that makes sense. That seems to have swapped around, which explains why these are now waiting around, why this has dropped off somewhat, and why this is overfilling because the train is no longer having to wait up here. Now what we could do, rather than chucking another vehicle at this, because we have a decent supply rate here, we could add one more cargo wagon onto this train. It's obviously going to slow us down a little bit, but it is also going to increase our maximum carry capacity. This time we didn't overfill, so perhaps we've got it just about right. Obviously you are going to have fluctuations over time. You're never going to get it perfect and then you can just forget about it for the rest of the game. So it is something, you know, you have to settle at something that's good enough. And I think what we have there hits that category of good enough. So I'm going to leave that as is for the time being. Okay, so for our next venture, our next bit of expansion, it would be nice to get either bread or tools into Portishead or West Ham respectively. Just looking, is there anywhere nearby we can tap into to get either of those cargo goods? Well, we have this food factory here, which is producing 400 Eton at the moment. But to me, it makes more sense to use this factory here, which is just over the river from Portishead. What do we have here? We have the Schneider PB2 bus, the CE682 Crocodile, and the Donabusha. I'm not sure about the pronunciation on that one. But yes, we have our first electric train, but it only does 47 miles per hour, so it may not see service just yet. But we did unlock a new bus. Now, I think it's worthwhile upgrading our buses if we can. And I think that's what we will do. We've got a bit of a traffic jam here, I see. What's going on there then? What have I set this line to do that's going to cause that? Maximum stop time of 3 minutes. Okay, you're waiting far too long there. Go for 90 seconds, please, just like you do at Portishead. There we go. That should then clear itself through. Yes, we could upgrade our buses here. So let's do a comparison of these buses. We're using the Gaggenau C40s. 25 miles per hour, carry 8. 22 miles per hour, so you sacrifice a bit of speed, but they do carry 9. It's also ever so slightly quieter on the emissions, and the loading speed is around about this. Yeah, but it's identical. 2 times combined, 2 times. This also has less power, and it is heavier. I think we are going to stick with the Gaggenau C40s, just to keep this at 25 miles per hour. That's what our trams are running at, and there is some interaction with our buses in the city centres, both at West Ham and Portishead. So keeping that 25 mile an hour speed is probably worthwhile. So we're going to overlook the Gaggenau for now. No. Yes. Did I get that the wrong way round? What buses are we using the Gaggenaus? Yes, we're not going to overlook the Gaggenau. We're going to keep the Gaggenau for now. So as we can see here now, interestingly, our train has just arrived and we're now running empty, and some of our vehicles are actually running into town empty. What I'm going to do there is actually change the line instructions so they will not leave until they have a full load. And then if we find in a couple of trips time all 5 vehicles are waiting here, then perhaps we have overdone it, or perhaps we just need one more wagon on this train. Obviously the station is slowly filling up, and again we don't want to waste resources by having it overfilled and this train not being able to keep up. The West Ham one is looking a lot better, a lot healthier. There's a decent supply on platform for the next trucks when they arrive. What do we have here? The Daimler Deck streetcar and the Vickers Victoria. That we can overlook. The Daimler Deck seat car, not streetcar. It's 22 miles an hour again, so chances are we won't be using that. Not where we have our trams in operation anyway. But yes, as I was saying, perhaps the best solution for our current issue with this line balancing is to add an extra wagon onto this train and see how that does. As we can see, this is not going to depart because she's only got 6 of 8 and they're going to wait for a full load indefinitely. So we are going to start developing at least something of a traffic queue here with at least 2 waiting. Although the train is pretty close to arriving now. Yes, I think we need one more wagon on this train. So let's do that. Let's manage this vehicle, edit the vehicle, one more flat car, you're red. There we go. And we'll see what that does. As I was saying a few moments ago, yes, getting tools or bread into West Ham or Portishead respectively has got to be the next venture that we do. We have a food factory here. This requires meat, coffee, and alcohol. We have meat here. We could produce coffee over here, and our distillery is all the way up here. So it is possible to do that, although it's going to be quite expensive. Or we could do these tools here. Now we do have a tool forge here at Whitnash. There's also one over here at Burton. And there's one down here in Marlborough, and I think that's all of them. Indeed so. How many of our cities require tools? Well, these 3. So that's 3 so far. 4. 5. 6. So we have 3 tools factories supplying 6 towns. Therefore, it makes sense to me to have each factory supply 2 towns. Now, given the proximity... Oh, did I not count Swinton? So we've got 7. So one of our tools factory is going to have to service 3 towns. Now, given the proximity, as I was saying, it makes sense for me for this. I think Whitnash... See, you'd think Whitnash should just supply these and these because they're very close. Well, that one's on its doorstep. However, this tools factory is also closer to Swinton, West Ham and Rothbury than this tool factory at Burton. Likewise, this one would service that town. Nothing else up there supplying tools, is there? No, there is not. Okay, so I need to have a think as to what factories are going to supply what towns, because what we don't want to have happen is just have one factory supplying one town and then one factory supplying 5 towns, because that would put too much strain on the factory that's supplying the 5. So we need to find a nice way to divide those between the cities so we balance out the production at each factory fairly nicely. Now I'm tempted. We have this factory here. I think we'll have this one supply Market Raisin as well as... In fact, yes, you can supply Market Raisin and I dare say Wareham. This one can supply Whitnash and Swinton. No, this one can supply Swinton and West Ham. This one can supply Whitnash and then up to Rothbury. So if we're going to use this tool forge to supply West Ham, then we're going to need some steel production. Now we have iron. Do we have a steel mill anywhere nearby this tool factory? Well, let's just have a look at its suppliers, shall we? We have one at Marlborough, which is this one here, clearly. We have the one at Rothbury, which is all the way up here, so we don't want to be using that one. We have one at Highworth, which is, I believe, down here. Yes, there it is. So it's either going to be this one or this one. Where's the last one? Swinton, that's here. Okay. Well, I think then we'll use the steel mill at Marlborough, because we can supply it from this iron mine and this coal mine quite readily. Bring in the steel to the tools, and then we could run the tools up around this way, bypass through this station, and then we'll have a branch off maybe around this point here, where we'll come over, and then we'll have a freight yard for West Ham nestled up in this little wooded area against the foot of this hill. But that's all for the future. So what we'll do now is slow things down, pause the date while we hop on a train to enjoy a little scenic goodbye. And obviously the ideal candidate is going to be this train here. So let's hop on board. Let's just sit somewhere, maybe like so. Sit on the side tank there, that's quite nice. And we'll say our farewells. So thank you very much for watching and for all your comments, your likes and your subscriptions. They are greatly appreciated, believe you me. If you have any suggestions for future expansion outside of the tools, or maybe if you think of a better way we could handle the tool production in terms of which tool factory supplying which town, then go ahead and let me know. And of course, any other overall suggestions for the game or for the series, please let me know and I'll either action it or give justifications to why I'm not actioning it. I wouldn't just ignore it and say no. I will, justify my reasoning. But for now, all that remains for me to say is, as always, ladies and gentlemen, take very good care of yourselves. It's ta-ta for now.